So from the facts, it is called out. There are two acts. First act is simply giving a blow or a slap. In that slap, the deceased fell down. After she fell down, the accused felt that she has died, and he believed that he has already died. On that belief, the second act was done. So there are two acts. First act is giving a slap, and she fell down unconscious or dead, but the accused believes that the deceased died because of the blow, and on that belief, the accused poured kerosene and set fire. So, from the facts of the case, we can call out there are two acts which ultimately caused a death, or even in the first act it would have caused a death. So, we have to see whether the first act constitute any offence, whether the second act constitute any offence. In order to ascertain whether this act number 1 or act number 2, whether it constitute an offence, we will have to first understand what ultimately the charge sheet has been filed is under 302. So, whether the charges have been proved by the prosecution beyond reasonable doubt. That's the first thing which we will have to do. For understanding whether it is coming under the act is falling under 302, we have to first understand what is culpable homicide amounting to murder and what is culpable homicide not amounting to murder. That is the section it's been defined in the section 299 and 300 of the Indian Penal Code. The 299 defines whoever causes death. The causes death is the most important keyword. Whoever causes death by doing an act. By doing an act. There are 3 limbs in this 299. By doing an act, with the first limb is intention to cause death. First limb is intention to cause death. Second limb is intention to cause bodily injury, which is likely to cause death. I will give you a chart. First give me your imagination so that I can pull your concentration and put you in this section. Then thereafter I will give you a small chart so that you can understand what is it. First let us understand the key words. The first limb says that's an intention to cause death. Intention is the key word here. Second limb says the intention to cause bodily injury, which is likely to cause death. It's a second limb. Third one is the knowledge that act is likely to cause death. Third one is the knowledge. So that we can call out 3 important key things. Directly I have an intention to cause death itself. Directly death itself. Second one is intention. And second one is intention to cause bodily injury, but I am not going to the death. But this bodily injury may ultimately result as a consequences of the act. The bodily injury ultimately it will result in death. So this is the second thing. The intention is to cause only bodily injury, which will likely to cause death. Third one is it's a mere act. Mere act. That mere act I am doing it with the knowledge. The accused does it with the knowledge, which is likely to cause death. These are the first 3 limbs. These 3 limbs are categorized into 2 categories. First category is the intention category. In the intention category, first 2 limbs fall. The second one is the knowledge category, in which the third limb fall. So it is classified into the culpable homicide not amounting to murder. The 299 section is broadly classified into intention and knowledge. Intention and knowledge. This intention and knowledge, which is a very broad classification, is put into culpable homicide, and there it is divided into 3 parts. There it is divided into 3 limbs. 3 parts, 3 limbs, 3 categories, all are same. Number 1 and number 2 are pertaining to intention. Number 1 and number 2 are pertaining to intention. Number 3 is pertaining to knowledge. So this is a very broad classification that is given for definition, that is given for the culpable homicide. Whoever causes death. by doing an act, this is also an important word, because this act goes to 300. Then this act goes to 300, then the murder is defined in 300. So unless you understand these two sections, 299 and 300, conjunctively, integratively, without being separated, you will not be able to understand why this, for this facts of the case, the Rajan's case, why it is falling under the limb number 3 of the 299. So that's why, before getting into the facts, because this 7 limbs, totally there are 7 limbs, unless you understand the 7 limbs, because in the future cases also we are going to make use of the 7 limbs, and where the act is going to fall, or accordance with the facts of the case, where the court is going to fix the act of the accused into which of these limbs. Okay, so therefore conjunctively you have to see this 299 and 300. Now 299 I have defined the intention to cause death, intention to cause bodily injury, and the knowledge. Third limb is knowledge. These 3 limbs are divided in the murder into 4 limbs. The murder definition I will tell you here. Whoever causes death, 299, it speaks of, definition starts with whoever causes death by doing an act. You take over the act from here, put it in 300. The act by which the death is caused, the 300 stars, the act by which the death is caused is done with the following 4 categories, 4 limbs. The act by which the death is caused is done with the intention of causing death. The limb number 1 in 299 corresponds to limb number 1 of 300. Limb number 1 of 299, similar, there is no difference at all. But exactly here also intention to cause death, here also intention to cause death. Then intention to cause bodily injury is the second limb of 299. So this 299 second limb is divided in 300 into 2 limbs. First limb, that is, the 2 limbs means the limb number 2 of 300. Limb number 2 of 300, it speaks of with the intention to cause bodily injury. What is there in 299-2? Same thing. Intention to cause bodily injury, likely to cause death. It is divided here. It is defined here in limb number 2 of 300. Intention to cause bodily injury, the offender knows. Offender knows is a key word here. It's a special knowledge. It's a special knowledge that's been attributed to the accused. Special knowledge. What is the special knowledge? The special knowledge is the deceased is operated with some disease. He is suffering with some disease, or he has been operated for some disease, for curing. If you punch in that area, if you have an attack in that area, that disease will die. I have a key knowledge on it, specified knowledge on it, so therefore I am doing that act. So if at all, if such an act is there, then it will fall under limb number 2. So limb number 3, 300. This is also pertaining to, it is derived from limb number 2 of 299. So limb number 2, first I give you this, limb number 2 of 299 first I will give you this. I have another one chart where for so easy understanding. These are keywords in that. You can distribute this. Limb number 2 of 300 is a special knowledge, and limb number 3 is also derived from the limb number 2 of 299. Intention to cause same bodily injury. The intention to cause same bodily injury, and the injury intended to be inflicted. That is, whatever the injury, what is the injury I target? If the same injury is going to be inflicted, injury intended to be inflicted is the key word here. Injury intended to be inflicted is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death. Is sufficient in ordinary course of nature to cause death. This is limb number 3 of 300. So therefore, limb number 2 of 299, here it is divided into 2 parts. Limb number 2 and limb number 3 in 300. And limb number 2 is a special knowledge. Limb number 3 is an injury intended injury, resulted injury. It is not the resulted injury. That there is injury that I have targeted. That is the key word here. Then this is this 2 and this 3. 299, 1 and 2. 300, 1, 2, 3 are corresponding to intention. You understand? Corresponding to intention. Then comes the fourth limb. The fourth limb of 300 is corresponding to third limb of 299. What 299 I have explained? I have explained 299 as an act, knowledge, and likely to cause death. I am doing an act, the accused is doing an act with the knowledge which is likely to cause death. This 3 is corresponding to 4 here in 300. What 304 defines is the accused knows. The act is, the accused knows, I know, accused knows, the act is so imminently dangerous, it's not dangerous, so imminently dangerous in all probabilities. In all probabilities. What is probability? Probability is more chance of death, less chance of survival. All probabilities would cause death. So, this knowledge here in 3 corresponds to 4, which is so imminently dangerous in all probabilities would cause death. So there are 7 limbs. There are 7 limbs in the totally 299 and 300. These 7 limbs are there total. So we will have to see in which limb the facts is the adjudication of the issue, and after appreciation of the facts where the act is going to be landed. It's going to land here. So accordingly, the punishment, the offence will be fixed, and accordingly, the punishment will be given. For 299, the punishment, the penal section is 304. So we have already said the 304 is divided into 2 parts. The first part is pertaining to the offence committed with the intention. The first part is an offence committed with the intention. The penalty will be given, the sentence will be given in 304 part 1. Suppose the offence is committed with the knowledge. Then the penalty will be given 304 part 2. Suppose if the offence is going to land in the 4 limbs of 300. 4 limbs of 3, intention to cause death, special knowledge, injury intended to be inflicted, and more dangerous. So imminently dangerous in all probabilities. Suppose if it is going to land here, then the penal class will be 302 direct. 302, there is no 2 parts. Either we land in intention part or in the knowledge part. We are going to land, as if it is going to be murder, we are going to be penalized only in 302. But if it goes back to 299, if the offence falls in the limb number 1 and if the offence falls in the limb number 2, then the penal class will be 304 part 1. If the offence is going to land in knowledge part, then the penal class will go to, the sentence will be sentenced, the accused will be sentenced in 304 part 2. This is a broad classification. If you see the definition of 299 and 300, what is culpable homicide is defined in 299. Simultaneously, parallelly, you see what is the definition of the 300 also. The 300 opening word will be except hereinafter accepted. Except hereinafter accepted, all culpable homicides are murder. So, what is defined in the culpable homicide 1, 2, 3 are murder. 1, 2, 3. This 1, 2, 3 are going to be murder here. That is divided into 4 parts, of course. But once it falls in the exemption, what are the exemptions? Exemptions are number 1, grave and sudden provocation. Number 2, private defense. Number 3, public act. Supernatural SP orders. The army commandant orders you fire. You fired. So public act. Number 4, sudden quarrel and heat of passion. Number 5 is consent. If this offence is going to land in the exemption, so but the entry will be here. Entry where the entry intention is the first entry, knowledge is the second entry. Either it has to, the act will enter here, then it will go into 299 three parts, then it will go into one of the four parts, four limbs in the 300. Then thereafter you have to consider whether it falls under the exception or not. If it falls under the exception, it will not stay in the 302 because it will revert back to 299. Why? Because the 300 itself comprises of 299 also. You have to understand that. The 300 itself, apart from the four limbs, there are 5 exemptions. If the act falls in the four limbs, it is 300. If the act going to fall in the one of the 5 exceptions, then the ball will revert back to 299 area. It will come back to 299. So this is how the 299 and 300 is broadly defined, and unless we understand this, we will not be able to get into the facts of the case, and we will not be able to understand why these facts of the case landed in 299.3. So I will give you a simple chart. You just understand this is my own, for the purpose of the interns who are here, I just made it so simple, sir. This is what I extracted from sir. I had the 2 broad categories which I said, no? The intention and the knowledge. Broadly it is divided into intention and the knowledge. I had an intention. These are the 2 heroes today. Intention and knowledge. I had an intention to steal his knowledge. You understand that? I had an intention to steal sir's knowledge, which is the output here.
But this is not punishable.
This is not punishable. Just you can. So this I have just for the purpose of learners, beginners, for the purpose of understanding, I created this. Please take it. There are 7 boxes. It is almost like can you imagine, this is like a gambling disc. It's like a gambling disc. There is an arrow which I placed here. There are 7 boxes. The arrow, once the court is going to rotate the arrow with the facts, proved facts or circumstantial evidences, where this arrow is going to land, box number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Accordingly, the offence will be fixed. Accordingly, the punishment will be there. This is the right part is 302 part. The left part is 299 part. The 299 part comprises of 3 boxes. Can you see this? The first 2 boxes are intention box. Third box is a knowledge box. First 2 boxes are intention box, please. The third box is a knowledge box. Similarly, in the right side, 300, first 3 boxes are intention box. Fourth box is a knowledge box. The first box corresponds to first box here. Left hand side first box, 299 corresponds to right hand side first box. And the left hand side 2 boxes, intention, the box, only one box, sorry. Left hand side box number 2 corresponds to 2 box here in the right hand side. Limb number 2 corresponds to limb number 3, so 2 and limb number 3. And the limb number 3 here corresponds to limb number 4 here. Once the offence, the 299 crosses this area, 299 crosses, the offence act crosses this area, the offence will land in the 300 portion and the punishment should be given in the 302. I have written here in the last, in the blue color for distinguishing it. Okay. If any of these 4 limbs in 300, the punishment class will be 302. Here in 299, if the offence is going to land here in box number 1 or box number 2, limb number 1 or limb number 2, the punishment will be 304 1. If it is going to fall in the third one, in the knowledge one, then the punishment will be at the bottom, 304 part 2. This is a broad classification. So, the act has to be first entering into either intention or knowledge. Then the act will go into limb number 1 or limb number 2 of 299. Then the act will go into murder 1, 2, 3. Limb number 1 or limb number 2 or limb number 3. Suppose if the act falls in the limb number 3 of 299, it will go and get tested in the limb number 4 of 300, and if it is not going to exception, it will stay in the 302 itself. If it goes to the exception and touch it, then what will happen? It will revert back to 290. Am I clear, or I have to be still more clear? If you can tell me that, I will explain it.
Yes.
Clear.
Go to the case now.
Now this is the broad understanding about the 299 and 300. Now coming to the case. There are two acts. First act is mere giving a slap. So we have to analyze whether there is an intention or not. First there is an intention or not in the first act. Giving a slap, would you feel that it will cause a death? Would you feel it will cause a bodily injury? Or can I feel that this is an act where I have a knowledge that whether this act will cause a death? Absolutely no. Coming to the second act. Second act is being done with the belief that she has already died and the object is a lifeless body, dead body. Therefore, I burnt or I poured kerosene, I burnt it. In the second act, can you analyze this? Whether there is intention or whether there is knowledge?
No.
Can you analyze it? No. When you take the cases from 1900, nearly about 115 years back, there were some judgments which had been rendered. It will come under the act of murder. Other judge says it will come under the act of 299. The act will fall under 299. The other judge will say the act will fall under 300. So there was a conflicting judgment. Ultimately, it was decided in the Palani counter. I'll come to that point later. First, we will analyze this issue. Then we will go to the why this has been arrived. Then we will come to the legal propositions. So, in this act, these two acts have been done. We cannot pursue the intention or we cannot pursue the knowledge either of that. That would be the answer. But the thing is, first act absolutely it has not been done. It has been done without. It's been there is no knowledge or no intention as far as the first act is concerned. But before the second act, there is an intervening belief. There is a belief that this is a lifeless body, this is a dead body, so therefore I can burn it out. So whether that belief is the good faith belief or bona fide belief, whether I have taken a due care and caution, attention for the purpose of burning it out, whether the belief is a good faith or not is the analysis. There are two acts. The section 33 of the Indian Penal Code says, there are two acts. The section 33 of the Indian Penal Code says, the single act, the act means the single act or series of acts. Omission means single omission or series of omissions. So therefore, these two acts will constitute a single act. As per the meaning of the section 33, these two acts could be, the single act could constitute, two acts would constitute a single act. So this is the definition of 33. 52 defines what is good faith. Good faith is anything done or if an act has been done without attention and care, then this act cannot be said that it's been done with the good faith. So therefore, in the intervening circumstances, act number 1 and act number 2, we will have to see whether due and diligent care and attention has been taken care of. If the due care and attention has been taken care of, then the destination of the accused would have been different. You would have taken her to the hospital and you would have seen that whether she is alive or not, there is every possibility to restore her consciousness. She may be unconscious at the time after the slapping. As a result of the slapping, she would have become unconscious. But if the destination is, if we would have taken a due care and caution, care and attention, as defined in the section 52, the destination of the accused and the destination of the deceased would have been different, would have gone to the hospital. But he has not taken the due care and attention, therefore he burnt and subsequently caused the decease. It has been proved by the medical evidence Medical evidence says the death is not due to the slapping but due to the burning. So therefore, ultimately, this act of second act, it is second act has been done without care and caution, and therefore the court on analysis they come to the conclusion that whether this act of the accused could be attributed to the knowledge that the second act he has done has been done with the due care and attention or not. Since it has not been done with the due care and attention, whether he could be attributed, imputed with the knowledge as required under section 300 first. First you see whether it is going to 300. 300 says so imminently dangerous in all probabilities would cause death. But since he believed that it's a dead body and there is no life at all in the dead body, therefore this high knowledge cannot be imputed on the part of the accused, and therefore it is reverting back to 299. 299 is an act. It's a knowledge. With the knowledge I am doing an act, it is likely to cause death. At least this knowledge should be imputed on the part of the accused. Therefore, the knowledge part pertaining to the culpable homicide not committing the murder is defined in the limb number 3, and therefore the offence has been brought under limb number 3, and accordingly the accused was punished in 302 part 2. This is the ending of this case. Then
any doubt is enough? Any doubt?
ladies.
Sir, what differentiates between the limb number 3 knowledge of 299 and 300 knowledge? What is the difference between the knowledge in 299 and 304?
Come again, please.
Sir, what difference that in this case that made the judge
This case or
in this case
that
that made the judge not to convict the person in 300 limb 4. So that's the same knowledge. Burning kerosene and pouring kerosene and burning a person is so imminently dangerous, in all probabilities will cause death.
Certainly.
What made the judge to not to convict the person in limb 4 and made
instead
it
of
to
limb
convict
4,
limb 3?
why it is limb 3? That's what I said, that intervening between the two acts, there is a belief. What is the belief? The belief is she has already died. Assume that she is alive. I know that she is alive. She is not dead. Suppose I am going to do that act. Certainly it will fall under limb number 4 of 300.
So what is the difference between this knowledge and this knowledge?
This knowledge is greater. Gravity of this knowledge is very high, and the gravity of this knowledge is very less. Gravity of this knowledge is less. That's why when culpable homicide is not amounting to murder, since the gravity is very less, it is landing in 304. So if the gravity is very high, then it will land in 302, which for which the punishment is life and death. Either this or that. No other lesser punishment. Whereas in 304.
So I did not understand the point wherein it was discussed in this particular case that these two acts which constitutes a single act. Slapping is the one act, pouring kerosene is the other act. So these two acts constitute a single act. That has been mentioned. So I did not understand how come they have
I will come to it.
differed from this.
What is your doubt?
So they have discussed in
Two acts.
two acts constitute a single act. That is discussed in this particular case. But I did not understand how come they have come to the conclusion that these are two acts leads to a single act. Because as far as my knowledge is concerned, I think that these two are the same. These two acts are different act and cannot constitute a single act. Because slapping is other thing, pouring kerosene is the other thing. Same transaction. But they cannot be considered as a single act.
But in the same judgment, sir, in another judgment they have given that when the intention of both the acts is the same,
Yes.
then it can be considered a single act. But if the intention of both, the final destination of both acts are different, it may not be considered a single act. So in the same judgment, when the slap itself was to cause death, then both can be considered as a single act. When the slap was not to cause death, and the intention of both acts is totally different, how can it be considered as a single act?
But act defines two acts constitute a single act. It's followed, immediately followed, subsequently followed, or immediately followed. One act is immediately followed. That's why the 8 judgments which have been narrated here. In the second judgment, if you see, the first 3 blows will be there on the basis. 3 blows.
Yes.
And assuming or believing that he is dead, the father-in-law, he will set a fire to the hut. The father-in-law will die out of burn injury. That is Kondu's case. there was a conflicting view between the two judges. The judge's name is, one is Justice Birdwood, the second would be Justice Parson. Then the matter will be referred to the CJ, Justice Sargent. Then Sargent will concur with the, Justice Sargent will concur with the Justice Birdwood that it will neither will come under 299 nor it will come under 300. That was the position earlier to Palani Kaundan's case. This was the position. Even before that, one another case is there, that is G.G. Thakur, that is Garg Govind Thakur's case. Here also it is only single blow. There is no intention to cause death. But here there is a second, in the second case, Kandu's case, there is an intention to cause death. I will come to the second case later. The first case I will define. First case, there will be a conflicting view between the two judges. One judge will say that act has to be, the accused has to be tried for 300. Another judge will say, Justice Norman Face, he will say he has to be tried for 299. The first judge, that's Satonkar, Justice Satonkar, he will say he has to be tried for 300. In the first case itself, there will be a conflict in G.G. Thakur, Gurgovind Thakur's case, there will be a conflicting view. But whatever the second judge said, Justice Norman Face, will it be ultimately followed and ultimately will be relied upon in this case for the purpose of deciding that this act will come under 299 or 300. So these two acts, the second, then I will come to the second. Now, first case I will define. Gurgovind Thakur, single blow, died. I believe that dead, so therefore I hanged. In the first case, the G.G. Thakur case. The second case is Kandu case, where there will be 3 blows, but the initial intention itself will be a to kill, intention to kill. Here the two judges will, conflicting view will be taken and it will be referred. But the judges will say, the two judges, the CJ and Justice Birdwood, they will say, it will neither come under 299 nor come under 300. He has to be punished for 307. That's what you said, no? In the first act, his intention is only to attempt to murder. So since he has believed in the second act, before the second act, since he has believed, it will neither fall under this 299 category or 300 category. This how that, but the Parson will take a different view. See, one act is followed by another. One act is connected to another. The two acts are inseparable. And the original intention for the first act should be ascribed, which prompted them to do the act. Both the acts, which prompted them to do, therefore they have to be tried for 302. So where you have to factually analyze these two acts are separable or not. One is separated another. This, whether one followed another. These are the 3 things which Justice Parson, right? This depends upon the facts of the case, whether one followed the another and whether it did not follow, or one is inseparably connected or not. These are the things which have been analyzed. Ultimately, because of these 2 cases, and the third case will come, the Dolu Sardar. Because of this, 2 judges said neither will fall under 299 nor it will fall under 300. So therefore, in Dolu Sardar case, he will jump out of the liability. Neither it will fall under 299 nor it will fall under 300. These were the 3 conflicting judgments which had been rendered before Palani Kaundan in 1919. So 1919, the Palani Kaundan was referred to the larger bench, and the Palani Kaundan's cases, facts not be narrated. Ultimately, they said in the Palani Kaundan also the decision would be neither it will fall under 299 nor it will fall under 300. There is no intention, there is no knowledge. So accused, there is no liability for the accused to be prosecuted or to be tried in 299 or 300. So then this case was considered in the subsequent case in Kaliappa Kaundan's case. Kaliappan Kaundan case, the facts will be the wife will be attacked or some blow will be given, assuming she is dead. But initial intention will be, this is a distinguishable case. Initial intention will be to cause death. That's what the facts, on the basis of the facts the court has done. The accused will drag the deceased and put it in the railway track. Rail will come, he will be rammed over, that deceased will be lady will be rammed over, she will die. Ultimately, the medical evidence is that she died because of the ran over by the train, not because of the initial blow. So he was tried. Kaliappa Kaundan was tried. Kaliappa ultimately said it's a murder. It is not 299, either 299 nor 200 fall, but it was distinguished. The case was distinguished. Palaniappan as well as Kaliappa Kaundan, both were distinguished, they separated in this. So these two cases came to be considered in the subsequent case, Davamani case. Davamani case, it's a blow, unconscious, and put it in the well. The medical evidence is death is caused because of the drowning, not because of the blow. So in this case, on the basis of the in this case, the Palaniappan and Egappan will be distinguished on the basis of Kaliappan. Palaniappan and Kaliappan will be distinguished on the basis of the Kaliappan's case. This case will land in 302, Davamani's case. This is 1943, I think, 1943. Then comes the Srinarayanan case in 1948, which is a Patna High Court case, where the same thing was considered all along. Two acts, believing it's a died, something has happened, then the second act has caused death, and what was said by the Norman Fleiss in the first case, Thakur's case, in the Gurgovind Thakur's case, that case will be relied upon. That case, what is the ultimate decision in that case? This case also will land in the same decision. There is a recklessness, there is a carelessness before the second act. So on the basis of, I believe that it is a dead, you cannot escape from the liability. You are liable to be prosecuted for 299. This is Srinarayanan case. Then comes the Sardi's case, about after 20-25 years. That's in 1976. This is by the Patna High Court. This is by the Madhya Pradesh High Court. This earlier one is Patna High Court. Srinarayanan is a Patna High Court. This is Madhya Pradesh High Court. This is also neck. He will compress the neck, fainted, unconscious, believing that she is already dead, hanging. So this is also, in this case also, the Srinarayanan will be relied upon, and ultimately the case will land in 299. Same thing happened in our case also. In Rajan's case, these two cases have been relied, the Madhya Pradesh case and Patna case have been relied, and ultimately, before the second act, the faith is a bona fide faith, or faith is a good faith or not is the main question. Once the good faith is not out of the belief, the belief is not out of good faith. If the second, before the second act, if the belief is not out of good faith, then there is no other go. The accused will be imputed with the knowledge which is required under section 299, limb number 3. This is the.
Not ask anything.
If you want somebody, you can distribute this.
Jagringla. No doubt, I got a number of doubts.
No, small doubts. Sir, if someone is not having taken due care and diligence, we call him negligent. We can't impute knowledge in him. We can call him negligent. Why can't we convict him under 304A for whoever causes death by a negligent act? Why should we impute knowledge to someone who didn't take enough care and diligence? Why can't we just call him negligent and convict him under 304? How can you impute knowledge to someone who has not taken care or taken due diligence? He is negligent, that's all. You cannot impute some knowledge which he doesn't have just because he was not diligent. Why can't we convict him 304?
Only it's distinguishable on the basis of fact. Usually in accident cases, which due to the rash and negligence, though the driver will know that there will be a knowledge on his part. This act of rash and negligent will cause death somebody else, because you will not have a visibility of the back side and will not have the visibility pertaining to the back wheel also. Suppose in all the major cases where the accident is happening, that the charge will be on 304. In some of the cases in Delhi only I found, in Tamil Nadu it's very common. 304 is a very common charge. Only in here they have changed the charge itself will be for the knowledge. 299 not amounting to murder. Culpable homicide not. It's purely distinguishable on the basis of the negligence and the knowledge. Still it is a gravity is very, very less. Assuming that there is no first act. If there is no first act at all. On the base second act, something committed and I have done something with negligence. Negligence, something that has been done with the negligence. It's purely a facts. It's purely on the basis of the facts we can land here or land
in this
there.
case, sir, whether he was.
But that's what I said. This is a precedent. First case. There is at least an attack. At least an attack. At least a little injury, little intention to What is intention and knowledge? The sir has defined in Ganesan was
whoever caused death. He has
who
caused death
caused death.
with negligence. He was not. He didn't know
That's-
that she was alive.
Yes, if that's what this is an act which is directly one human to another human. First, we will see whether the act is. See, when I see this sir judgment, you will first you will determine whether it is a homicide or not. Whether it is a homicide or not. Human killing another human is a homicide. Then you will come to whether it is culpable or not. Second stage. Culpable means punishable. Mental state of mind, the criminal state of mind. The state of mind will be criminal enough to culpability. What is culpability? But the drivers, there is no culpability is there. But here,
Next sitting we will deal with
304.
this 304 negligent. What do we mean by rash act? What do we mean by negligent act? And thirdly, whether this has got anything to do with the culpable homicide are defined in section 299. This topic we will have separately. Very good thing. We will consider that. Anything else? Anything else? Salama. Can I take 10 minutes now?
Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay.
No permission, sir.
Now I got fundamentally a doubt now. What is an offence? We in court, we say that he is to be convicted. Why? He has committed an offence. So no one can be punished for anything other than an offence, is it not? So first of all, an offence should have been committed. How an offence can be committed? An offence can be committed either by doing something or not by doing something, that is by omitting to do something. If that is declared as an offence in this act, it is an offence. The term offence itself has been defined in the IPC, which says that anything which has been anything which is declared as an offence in this code or in any other special law is an offence. Very good. So an offence can be committed. We say that he has committed the offence. An offence can be committed either by doing an act or by omitting to do an act also. You have got a duty to do something which you omit. That also amounts to an offence. So fundamentally, the accused should have done something, an act should have been committed. Very good. In the instant case, now according to him, there were two acts committed. So he asked one pertinent question as to why should these two be called as two one single act, because they are different acts. I will say, for your thinking, I will say that in this case, there were not only two acts, there were several acts. I can say there were several acts. I will give an illustration. A person is killed by cutting with our word. How many acts are there in that?
One act.
Only one act. 10 times I cut. How many acts now? Huh?
One act.
Why? Why one act?
Same offense.
What is the offense?
Cutting.
See, I cut him once. I go away. Have I committed an offense or not? What is the offense? T324. Again I cut him. Am I not committing another offense now? Again 324. Again I make another cut, third cut. So I am committing third offense. Am I not now correct to say that I have committed 3 acts now? Therefore I have committed 3 offenses. So he has to now, are we doing that? Are we counting the number of injuries caused in a particular case and say that you have caused 10 injuries, therefore you are punished under 324 into 324 10 counts? You do not say. Why? We treat all the acts as one single act. That's the reason why, irrespective of number of injuries which we cause, we call it as one single act of causing bodily injury. All the injuries which we have caused, though by different acts, are treated as one single act. When I can give you another illustration. Today I cause one cut and I go away. Tomorrow I come again, I cut him. Now how many offences are committed?
2 acts, 2 offences.
Why?
Because it's not in single transaction.
That is the fundamental thing. So whether series of acts, in common parlance, in courts, we call it as a transaction. But as per section 33 of the Evidence Act, series of acts. Series of acts means what? There has to be continuity of actions. There has to be continuity. So 10 cuts I cause as against a single man. So all the 10 are done in a series. Therefore, law says that all put together make out a single act. Correct? Very good. I cut Sudha once. Then I cut Bhairavan now. Now how many acts? 2 acts. How many offences? Why? In the same transaction I committed. In the same transaction. If this explanation used to be simply applied, then I have to be punished only once, because it is only a series of acts. Correct? Can we punish him only once? Where lies the difference then? See, series of acts committed against an individual, because what is the offence under 324? Whoever voluntarily causes injury to him. So I have caused injury to him in the same transaction, in the series of acts, I have caused injury to him. This is treated as one act. When I cause another injury on you, though it is in series, in the same transaction, it is treated as a separate offence. So it all depends upon the object also, how many objects are involved. If there is only one single object against which an offence is committed, any number of acts committed in a series will be taken as one single act. If it is committed, the acts are different, directed against different persons, or if it is against the same person on different occasions, when there is no continuity of action, there also we call it as separate acts. So section 33 of the Indian Penal Code is a very, very important section to know as to what is an offence, what is an act. I tell you yet another example also. So this chapter, commencing from 299, chapter 16, deals with offences against the human body. There are about 96 sections in this chapter alone. So the IPC has been so designed to say offences against property, again offences against the country, offences against state, offences against
human body,
like that. So it has been classified. This chapter relates to the offences against human body. Very good. What is the slightest harm which I can cause on a person? I push him like this. It is a very, very slight harm. But this is an offence. Is it not? Then I intimidate him like this. So he experiences some kind of pain. He experiences some kind of apprehension. There also an offence is committed. Then I attack him with hands or with arrow. That is an offence. Then that results in injury. That is a grievous injury. That is a different offence. That becomes an attempt to commit murder. That is an offence. Lastly, man dies. So, from the slightest harm which one can do by an act, the greatest harm which can be caused is death. Correct? Slightest harm is making a small motion. That is criminal force, use of criminal force. So that is the slightest harm that can be caused on a human body. The greatest harm which can be caused on a human body is death. So that is murder. So from the slightest harm to greatest harm, several acts are done as against the same person. I push him. So that means I make motion. Criminal force is used. I attack him. Assault is caused. That results in an injury. hurt is caused, that injury is grievous. That is grievous hurt is caused. Then it is with an intention to cause his death. Then attempt is caused. Then attempt succeeds. Then man dies. Culpable homicide is caused. Then culpable homicide is tested. It amounts to murder. The greatest harm is caused. So always when we look at a case, if we feel that we cannot get total acquittal, we should try to reduce the sentence so that the person can escape with a minimum punishment. So in any offence related to human body where death has been caused, first we have to start from the top. Murder, no, it won't become murder. Then it comes to culpable homicide. We say no, culpable homicide also won't come. Then comes down 326. No, 326 also won't come. Then 324. Then 324 also won't come. Then 323. So like this we should try to, as far as possible, we should try to reduce the punishment. The reason is that a person cannot be convicted for an offence which he has not committed, because it is be unconstitutional. Offending Article 21, he can be punished for the offence he has committed. Therefore, you have to measure and find as to what the offence has been committed by this person. That offence used to be identified and placed before the court. That is our endeavour. Now, Mr. Balaji was very aptly putting as to what is culpable homicide and what culpable homicide amounts to murder. So let us not think in this way, what is culpable homicide and what is murder. No. What is culpable homicide and what culpable homicide amounts to murder. Very good. Then it is not two different concepts. Firstly, culpable homicide, what culpable homicide amounts to murder. So in every culpable murder, there is culpable homicide. But every culpable homicide may not amount to murder. This is the fundamental thing. He said he tried to distinguish between these two things. Number one, intention. Then he said knowledge. He was telling that if the intention is to cause the death, it is murder. Intention to cause death falls within the first limb of 299. Intention to cause death, 299. So it is culpable homicide. Then what is the next test? Whether this culpable homicide amounts to murder. Section 300, limb 1 says, culpable homicide amounts to murder if it has been done with the intention of causing death. Same thing. Therefore, wherever there is intention to cause the death, it is murder only. It will not stop with culpable homicide. It will automatically amount to murder. Okay, very good. Second limb. Here also another intention. It speaks of intention. First one is intention to cause death. Second one, intention to cause bodily injury. Bodily injury. What is a bodily injury? So this is an injury which I have caused. I stabbed him, that is an injury caused. So any number of injuries or any nature of injuries can be caused. Then for the purpose of 299 limb 2, not only an intention should be gathered that he intended to cause the injury, that he also caused. There is another test. What is the nature of the injury? In Birsa Singh case, that judgment you should all read. If you want to know the different Birsa Singh case, you have to read. In that, very clearly they distinguish this aspect. What do they say? They have given a guidance. Intention is subjective. That is, what is your intention? It relates to the accused. But the injury is objective test. That test is objective. That is based on the medical evidence. So this injury grievous. This is grievous or not. Court has to ultimately say. So the nature of injury does not have anything to do with the man. It is objective. But what is the subjective test? What is your intention? So the intention to cause injury, first one is intention to cause death. He said, if the intention is to cause death, it falls under limb 1, it is murder. If the intention is only to cause bodily injury, then it is culpable homicide which may or may not amount to murder. What is the difference between these two? How to gather intention to cause death? In one case we say the intention to cause death, the death is there. In another case we say no, the intention to cause bodily injury alone is there. How do we differentiate? A person cuts, there is an injury, man dies. We say he intended to cause the death. Other one, he intended only to cause injury. How to find the difference when it comes to the question of application in court? How to gather? Can we ask the accused? What is your intention? You tell me. Can we ask him? Would he say? Then how to find out the intention? What is the measure in our hands? That is the greatest skill of the lawyer. That is the great depends upon the skill of the lawyer. What we have to say is, intention is a matter to be gathered from, to be inferred from various circumstances. Okay? It is a matter to be inferred or gathered from various circumstances. From out of that only, we give a finding whether it is intention or it is only a knowledge, whether it is the intention is to cause bodily injury or it is only, or it was to cause the death. From out of various circumstances. I can give you illustration for that. See, a person comes from a long distance with a long size of arval and he is lying wait in the bus stand, waiting for the deceased to come. The deceased comes. He gives a single cut. Head is severed. Man dies. Now use your common sense. You apply your common sense. What is the intention here?
To cause death.
What is the intention? Why? See, he has already planned. For that he has got a formidable weapon, lying in wait for a man to come. So he has got motive. Everything forces the court to conclude, by simple common sense, we conclude, yes, the intention was to cause the death. Very good. Then the man comes to the place of occurrence. The weapon is lying there. He takes the weapon and gives a cut. He aims at the person. It falls on the stomach. He runs away. Now here, from this, there is no motive. No motive at all. He comes here in a friendly manner, they were talking. At that time something happened, you took out an arval and caused his death. Here what is the intention? Intention cannot be here to cause the death. But anyhow, he intended to cause the injury, otherwise he would not have taken the arval. Because his intention was to cause only bodily injury. This fine distinction can be gathered from the circumstances like the motive, whether it is strong or no motive or very ordinary motive. Motive, number one. Number two, time taken by him. Number three, number of injuries caused. Suppose with one injury he goes away, when he intention to cause injury, he repeatedly cuts until he ensures that the man is no more. He cuts, or with a formidable wooden log he attacks him. He repeatedly gives attack. He attacks him. Man falls, and until then, after he has fallen, he turns his body. Take the finger near his nose. Now he ensures that the man is no more. Then he goes. Whether the intention here is to cause bodily injury or to cause death. Because he ensured that the man died. Until then he did not stop. At one point of time he stopped attacking, then he checked whether a man is finished or not. After having come to the conclusion that he is finished, then he goes. That shows his intention now. Intention from his act, that he ensured that the man is no more. Then he leaves the spot. This gives the inference of his intention. His intention is to cause the death. Therefore, to find whether there was intention to cause the death or intention was only to cause bodily injury, or the intention, or he had only knowledge, we have to look at various circumstances. You cannot have a straitjacket formula. If there is a single cut, no intention to cause death. If there are several cuts, intention to cause death. That kind of straitjacket formula we cannot have, because single shot with a pistol on the chest may cause the death. And similarly, one single cut severing head may cause the death. These are all the matters where we have to infer that the man intend to cause death. Then with a stick, small stick, he attacks repeatedly until his man dies. There also the weapon, though is not a formidable, it is a small weapon, still we say that the intention was to cause the death. Therefore, whether he had intention or knowledge, and if it is intention, what is that intention? If it is knowledge, what amount of knowledge he had, are all matters which are to be inferred from various circumstances in the case. It is the duty of the cross-examiner to bring all these things on record. That is the purpose of cross-examination. During cross-examination, you have to bring all these things. So the weapon was laying there, and he did not go, and more than one attack he did not make. He went away. All these things are to be elicited during cross-examination, brought on record. This is one thing. So this is the way in which we have to prove the intention. The series of acts, also I have said, series of acts means acts done in series. There has to be close proximity, there has to be interconnection between one act or the other. So in a murder, how many acts are there? There is use of criminal force is there, assault is there, causing bodily injury, simple injury is there, causing grievous injury is there, causing death is there. So all these things are committed against an individual. There are several acts committed, but all these acts ultimately make out what?
Single act.
Single act. That single act is murder. So in criminal law, always we have to punish the man for the greatest offense that he committed, the biggest offense he committed, by putting all the acts together as a single act. That is what we call as particulars. If you go to CRPC 221, CRPC you take 221, we will show you that. I'll read 222. When a person is charged with an offence consisting of several particulars, a combination of some only of which constitute a complete minor offence, and such combination is proved, but the remaining particulars are not proved, he may be convicted of a minor offence, though he was not charged with that. 222. So, murder has got so many components that here the language uses particulars. What are they? Whoever causes the death. So death should have been caused. 2, be the intention of doing these things. 3rd, this culpable should amount to murder. Lastly, it should not fall under any one of the exceptions. If it falls under any one of the exceptions, it will not amount to murder. It should not fall under any one of the exceptions. Now there is a charge under 302 IPC. There is a charge under 302 IPC. Now you may say, first thing what is required? Several particulars are to be proved to make out a combination of all the particulars should make out murder. All these particulars. He caused injury, that injury caused the death, that death is culpable homicide, that culpable homicide amounts to murder, and that does not fall under any one of the exceptions. These are all the combination of particulars. If all these particulars are proved, then he will be punished for murder. Suppose some particulars are not proved. Some particulars are not proved. For example, medical evidence says that death was not caused by the act of the accused. Medical evidence says completely dissevered. The man sustained injuries, taken to the hospital, undergoes treatment. During treatment, he dies due to heart attack. Postmortem is conducted. It was believed all along that the man died because of the injury. Now, postmortem doctor clearly gives the opinion that the death had nothing to do with the injuries caused. Correct? Therefore, what is now missing? Whoever causes the death, one particular, that particular is missing. If that is missing, if that is not proved, then it will not not be culpable homicide. If it is not culpable homicide, automatically it is not murder. So two particulars are missing now. It is not murder, it is not culpable homicide. Then what are the remaining particulars proved now? He caused the injury. With weapon he caused the injury. That is voluntarily he caused the injury. These particulars alone have been proved. These particulars will make out a complete minor offence. What is a minor offence? These particulars he caused voluntarily, caused grievous hurt. Therefore it is 326 now. It has come down to causing grievous hurt. Now, you are questioning the doctor further. Death was different. Death was caused due to some other cause, which I am not responsible. These major particulars have gone already. Now, an attempt is made to punish him under 326 for having voluntarily caused a grievous hurt. Here, when you cross-examine the doctor, he may bring on record that the injury is not grievous. It is only simple injury. How to do that? See, suppose there is a fracture of the leg. Fracture of the leg. Doctor will say that I found a fracture in the leg. How can he say that there is a fracture? It is from out of X-ray. X-ray is a document or not? It is a document. So, in respect of a document, what is the primary evidence? Document itself. Therefore, the X-ray is to be produced before the court and proved. If the X-ray is not produced, then the opinion of the doctor, oral evidence of the doctor is secondary in nature, which is not admissible at all. Because section 63 onwards of the Evidence Act, if you look at, it says that primary evidence must be always produced. If primary evidence could not be produced for various reasons, such as missing, destruction, etc., that explanation is to be accepted by the court, then only secondary evidence is admissible. Here, no doctor will say that X-ray is missing. So these APPs also will not ask. They will simply ask the doctor, he will give opinion. It too will settle now by the Supreme Court that in the absence of production of the primary evidence, namely the X-ray, the opinion of the doctor being secondary in nature, it is not admissible. If this argument is accepted, then one more particular is now missing. What is that particular? Whether it is grievous, no, that particular is missing. Then what are the remaining particulars? He caused injury, voluntarily caused injury. What is the nature of injury? Now it has been proved to be simple injury. He can be punished only for offence under 323 IPC. So this is the way in which in the given case you have to apply these norms, these standards. First, what is the charge? 302. What is the allegation? He caused the death. What is the further allegation? He caused the death with intention of causing death. It is culpable homicide. according to them, that culpable homicide amounts to murder. It does not fall under any one of the exceptions, therefore it is murder. That is the argument of the prosecution. How we have to approach this? Is there any doubt that he caused the death? He only caused the death because he set fire and she died of the injury. That is established. He caused the death. Whoever causes the death, now he has caused the death. First particular is proved, first ingredient is satisfied. Very good. Okay. Then, as he rightly said, you go to the next point. Whether it is culpable. See, causing, what is death? Death itself has been defined in the IPC. Death means death of a human being.
46.
Death of a human being. So whoever causes the death, I cause the death of an animal, is it murder? So I kill a goat, is it murder? No. Why? Death itself has been defined. It says that causing death means death of a human being. That is death. Whoever causes the death, I should have caused the death of a human being. Correct? Here in this case, whether this accused has caused the death or not, yes, he caused the death. So the first part is satisfied. Then come to the second part. It is not every causing of death which is culpable. Doctor conducts surgery, man dies. Can you say it is culpable homicide? No. Similarly, driver drives the bus and there is an accident. Man dies. There is homicide caused. Death is caused. Whether this act will amount to culpable homicide? No. Why? It is not causing every death which is culpable homicide. To make the causing of death as culpable, so to bring it under 299, the act of the accused should fall under any one of the limbs of 299. Limbs, we call it as limb. Limb number 1, limb number 2, limb number 3. As he has given in the chart, 299 has got 3 limbs, 300 has got 4 limbs. Correct? So we have to test whether the act of the accused falls under any one of the limbs. If it falls under any one of the limbs, then culpable for homicide. Now we have tested, yes, it is culpable homicide. We have gone to the next step. Then thereafter, whether this culpable homicide will, they do not say whether the causing of death will amount to murder. They do not say that. Very consciously worded. Culpable homicide will amount to murder. So first of all, fundamentally it should be culpable homicide. Therefore, as he said, we have to see whether it falls under any one of the limbs of 299. Then we have to go to the next test, whether it amounts to murder. That means what? Whether it falls under limb 1, automatically murder. If it falls under limb 2, special knowledge. Special knowledge means that is again subjective. I got a heart disease. Doctor said that if any kick is given on my chest, I will die. You may not know. In an ordinary course, just out of anger you kick me, I die. Can you say that you intended to cause my death? No. But you know very well, being the son, you know very well that I got that disease, and if any kick is given on my chest, I will die. With that knowledge, this knowledge is special for you. Then you give a kick, I die. The distinction is, if the very same act is done against anybody else, he would not go died. But if the same act is done against me, I will die. Because of my disease, my infirmity. If knowing that I have the disease and causing this much of slightest harm will cause the death, if you do that, then it falls under limb 2 of 300. So correspondingly in the chart he has given, intention to cause bodily injury, which is with this special knowledge. Third limb is again intention to cause what? A bodily injury. What bodily injury? Which is sufficient in the ordinary course of nature to cause the death. Here only again the skill of the lawyer becomes very, very important. There are two aspects in that. If you read the Ganeshan's case and Birsa Singh case, the language used in section the limb 3 of 300 will be really surprising and very enjoyable. This says 299 2 says with the intention of causing bodily injury which is likely to cause death. If I cause the injury, it is homicide, culpable homicide. But for the purpose of 300, it is not the resulted injury, intended injury. That I have told you already on many occasions. Keep in your mind, this is very, very important. A person comes with a formidable weapon like Arwal, he aims at the neck. The man blocks it, hand is cut, severed. Then further cut he could not make, he runs away. Here the intention is to cause bodily injury, no doubt. He caused the injury also. This injury was not the intended one because he blocked, the intended injury was on the neck. So going by the force, going by the weapon, the fact that the force, the hand itself has been cut will give an indication that but for the blocking with the hands, the cut would have fallen on the neck and the head would have been severed. Here it is so clear that the intended injury was sufficient to cause death. That is third limb. Fourth limb is knowledge. Okay. So when you do a case under section to avoid limb 3, the cross-examination of the doctor is very important, and you have to bring on record that this injury is not sufficient in the ordinary course of nature. For that probability, you have to say, you have to elicit the doctor what is the percentage of chances for death, chances for survival, all these things. There also there are three things. One is possibility, probability and certainty. There are three things. This is also a matter to be gathered. Possibility means any injury may cause the death. It is possible. If one finger is cut, it may cause the death. Possibility is there. Probability, more than 50. Likely means more than possible. Likely. Probable means chances for survival is less and chances for death is more. Likely means chances for survival is more, chances for death is less. And certainty means probability, see, likely, probable, certain. Possibility, very small amount, possible, likely, probable, and lastly, certain. These things are also very, very important. In the given case, next week, I will tell you lastly in my concluding this thing, I will tell you as to why this case will not come under 304A. Why, similarly, why knowledge cannot be attributed to him so to bring the offense under limb 4 of 300. That also I will tell you when it comes. There are two ways to do that. For your thinking only I say, it was in a quarrel. It was in a quarrel in the same transaction. We can say exception 4 can be attempted, exception 1 can also be attempted. I am only giving you broad ideas, I am not concluding. I am giving you ideas for your thinking only. It can be brought under exception 1, it can be brought under exception 4. Or it can also be said, as he said, that there was not so much of knowledge as is required under limb 4 cannot be attributed to him. That possibility is also there. Where is the benchmark? How to differentiate between these two things? that we will do on a later date. So I think that this much is enough for today. And if you have got any more doubts, you can get it clarified from now. Any other doubt? Okay. You read that. See, point is, then after this you have to read the positions repeatedly, then only you will understand. The chart also you can make use of. And next time it is going to be Mr. Parthiban. I will give the case tomorrow. Tomorrow morning we will decide about the case. I will give the case. What is the area of the case?